Welcome to Organizing Untold. We're back with another episode, but before we get into today's episode, we have a message from one of our sponsors. Our sponsor for today's episode is the Primary Focus. Managing your child's schooling can be challenging. The Primary Focus YouTube channel is here to help. Primary Focus is the parent's guide to elementary school. It teaches parents everything teachers wish they knew, from how to thrive in the classroom to how to keep learning going at home. Check out their videos on YouTube, answering questions like what to do if you hate your child's teacher, how to give your child the preschool experience without actually sending them to preschool, and the top 5 questions to ask at a parent teacher conference. For all your elementary school questions, Primary Focus is here to help. Search for Primary Focus on YouTube today. Now let's get into today's episode. I am your host, Sierra Hamilton, and we have another guest joining us today, Adrianne. Thank you, Adrianne, for being our guest today.
Yes,
And
thank you for having me.
you're welcome. And if you could, we can just start off with you introducing who you are and what you do.
All right. So, as you mentioned, my name is Adrianne Free, to give you my full name. I am a best-selling author, a recent accomplishment of mine within the last 2 years of a children's
Congratulations.
book. Yes, thank you. Centered around my life growing up with Erb's palsy. So I'm a proud BPI warrior, which we call when those overcomers that endure this injury and live with it from day to day and overcome it and live this full life. I am a daughter to two amazing parents that just celebrated 50 years of marriage. So I'm excited about that also. And I'm a proud auntie, godmommy of six. I love the babies and the babies.
Love that.
Yeah, that's and I'm a big time traveler. I can't leave that out. I love to travel, explore, and learn new cultures, meet new people, um, and live life and grow and try to cherish every moment.
I love that. And grow and cherishing every moment is so important. So important.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, to start us off, I really just want to start the conversation by us talking about what does organizing look like to you, and also how has organizing helped you to get to where you are today.
So first, what does organizing mean to me? Organizing or organization for me means peace of mind. I feel like as long as you are comfortable in your space and that that there's no clutter within yourself.
Mm,
um and I'm talking about internal because sometimes it's not necessarily about it being spick and span. It's just a
mhm,
matter of, hey, do you have peace within the environment that you have to coexist in? So for me, it's about peace of mind, and a lot of things in general start with the mind anyway, which gonna then affect your outward.
yeah.
So that's what organization means to me, and that's whether it's in tangible, tactical things,
Mhm,
or if it's in you know your um, your family life, your um, professional life, your spiritual life.
mhm.
As long as there's peace of mind, I feel like then you yourself is organized in a manner that's substantial for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how has that helped you, or how has that helped you become who you are today, and like what you do, helped you in what you do currently?
I think it helps me to prioritize. I think that's how it's helped me.
Mm,
Um, because I mean, I'm still working on some of the like tangible organization,
yeah, that makes sense.
areas. But how I level it out and how it has helped me is being able to prioritize. And that takes organization too, right? Because you have to
Mhm,
assess what's in front of you and prioritize what you need to tackle first.
mhm,
And for me, that has helped me to you know, not be so bogged down with like anxiety of what's to come
Yeah.
or have my hands in too many pots
Mhm.
or, just be overwhelmed. It allows me to just focus on that thing at hand
Mhm.
and put my best foot forward on that. And that's
Yeah.
kind of, where the book came about, where the moving back, to the Charlotte area came about, and just other things that I've accomplished in my life. It's more or less, you know, tackling the first thing to the boat. That's what a coworker of mine would always say. I look at the first thing closest to the boat, and yeah, and that that actually helped me to be like, oh, okay, I can exhale, I can breathe,
Yeah.
I can move. So I think that's
Mm.
how it's helped me.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And so when you say that, let's talk about that analogy a little bit more. So like the closest thing to the boat, mm, for our audience, like can you elaborate on that a little bit more on what your coworker meant and how you apply that to your life currently?
Yeah, now I'm pretty sure, who knows, he may be a fisherman or whatever. He might have had a whole story behind why he says that. But for me,
Yeah.
that makes me think there's a lot of things, when you think of the ocean or anything, there's a lot of things out in the water. There's a lot of things out there.
Yeah.
And that's like our life. There's a lot of things, that we have going on. We're all multitaskers.
Mm.
Whether or not we want to be, that's the way that the world has evolved into being.
Yeah.
So we're managing a lot of things on our plates. So understanding that there's always going to be something to do, especially as an adult. I tell you, sometimes I
Mm.
wish I can go back to being in high school. But but as an adult, there's always something to do. There's always something that we need to tackle.
Mhm.
And but the thing that's close to the boat that's a hazard, that's the first thing you got to get out the way.
Yeah.
In order for you to move forward, you got to clear that thing that's the closest to you. And
Yeah.
so I think from the perspective of all these things that we have going on in our lives, we have to put our attention, or not we have to, right? Because some people are better
Mhm.
at multitasking than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes it's better to focus on that thing that's right there in front of you that you
Mhm.
have to get done, put all your energy and your focus on, get that out the way. And the next thing you can do is focus on that next thing at hand. And I think that kind of helps, it goes hand in hand with organization too. When you think
Yeah.
of things in your house or things that you need to tackle in your house, you need to
Mhm.
organize. Maybe it's not necessarily you're organizing, putting things in the files, but I gotta clean. I have guests coming over, especially we're going into the
Yeah.
holidays. It's like, okay, well, what's the thing that is causing the most, you know, uh disturbance?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, is it the clothes that's all over the couch? Or is it the refrigerator that needs to be cleaned out or whatever
Yeah.
it may be? Is that the thing that is like uh, really a thing that's like making you stressed,
Yeah.
you need
Yeah.
to get out of the way. So it's like, okay, well, tackle that thing first. Tackle that one thing first,
Mhm.
that done. And then you can look at something else. And then, like I said, it just kind of takes that pressure off of, I gotta do all of it. I gotta do all of it at one time. And then
Yeah.
therefore your time is now decreased. Your
Yeah.
is decreased, and all those other things. So, yeah, so that's how I took his analogy when he said, I tackled the closest thing to the boat. I was like, good. And it's amazing how something so small like that uh,
Mhm.
sticks with you because that was some
Yeah.
years ago. But for me, that helps me
Yeah.
to, not be spread so thin and allow me to put focus where I need to in that appropriate time.
That makes sense. No, and thank you for taking the time to explain that.
Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. It's all important because like you said, it goes all the way back to the beginning where you're no longer anxious and overwhelmed trying to get every single thing done, but because you're focusing on that one thing that's causing the most disturbance, the one hazard that's closest to the boat now, and
Mhm.
then taking steps from there so you get this done and then going to the next thing. That's what's hope that's what's helping you be able to maintain what organizing looks like. So
Right.
yeah, it's almost in a sense, well, really, if can help you stay sane as well. Um,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because again,
Mhm.
anxiety and being anxious is it can lead to a ripple effect and cause a slew of other things if we continue to stay in that state of mind in a sense as well. So
Right, absolutely.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your book. So when it comes to being an author, like do
Yes.
you feel like that was a disturbance that you uh, like wanted to tackle before you did something else, or was it more of just like a priority? Like when did it become a priority for you, and how did you go about that? Organizing just your life and organizing just your journey in becoming an author and getting that book published.
So first, I loved how you said disturbance. Now, naturally saying disturbance, that rings a negative tone, right? You're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, man, what's wrong?" But
Yeah.
when you said that, I was like, "Actually," and I know I kinda used that word before,
Mhm.
but you used it very appropriately in the fact that God had to disturb my expectation for what I was gonna
Yeah.
focus on, or for, what, I was involved in as far as
Yeah.
my general day to day. He had to
Mhm.
kinda shake it up and put my attention on this fact that, "Hey, you have, you've been equipped
Yeah.
to encourage and empower children or other people, but I put my focus on the younger generation, but of course, we can be inspired by anybody,
Yeah.
old, young, whatever. Um, and you are equipped with the ability to encourage and inspire them, in their differences, being that I, go about the world with the difference.
Mhm.
Um, and, I it's funny, I never saw myself as an author. I'm a
Oh.
dancer at heart. I grew up dancing. I love to dance.
Mhm.
So a lot of my, um, inspiring, motivating comes through my dance.
Yeah.
Um, I do liturgical dance. I danced at my church for years in Virginia. And I've been on a number of dance teams from elementary all the way through college and adult.
Yeah.
And so I never saw myself as or I never, I'm not gonna say I never saw myself as because I always feel like I can do, but
Yeah.
I never thought about being an author. Um, and so during the pandemic, when we had all that downtime, it's, we had
Yeah.
all had a lot of downtime.
Mhm.
Really focus on what's important and where we should, put our time and how we're going to use our time um, productively in this new way of life, this new sense of kind of like isolation.
Mhm.
Um, God spoke to me and was like, "Hey, you know what? I've connected you to this publisher through a previous event I attended.
Mhm.
You've spoken in places where there's children about, disability and everything. Why don't
Mhm.
you put that in a book?" And
Mhm.
so from that point on, when I finally kind of said yes to it, because I had kind of been feeling like I needed to do it.
Mhm.
When I finally said yes to it, all the ideas started to flow, the
Oh, wow.
connections started to happen. And uh getting that publisher, going back to that publisher,
Mhm.
helped me to get organized and
Yeah.
how I to execute this because being that I had no awareness of how to put a book together and what that
Mhm.
process was like, she stepped in and helped lay out the plan. for how to execute it from beginning to end, and and that was like extremely helpful. Um, and so yeah, then that helped me to, across about 6 months, um, be able to put the book together, learn about the process, and then get it out and have a really great product for parents and children.
That's so good. That's good. I love that your publisher helped you, even though being an author wasn't something that you saw that you would be like in the be doing in a sense.
Mhm.
Your publisher stepped in and helped you create that plan to be able to get it done and see it all the way through. And then once you also said yes to it, it's like everything, just every resource, well, resources and everyone who could help you bring it to fruition came and stood by you and with you as you got that done. So I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Mhm.
And in terms of like just a little bit more on the book in terms of when it came to um, book signings and things like that. Is that something that you and the publisher also worked on together in terms of organizing, also, or how did that go?
So that's actually that responsibility was handed over to me. She got me started, she got me through the book
Mhm.
creation and kind of release process. But now it was up for me to kind of get the word out there, get connected with um, book fairs or just environments where I could showcase my baby, my over here, my book
Yeah.
baby. Um, and yeah, and so it was just a matter of talking to people, uh, you know, um, when I found another author, connecting with them, seeing how they are, getting their book out, how they're reaching their intended audience. And then, we all know that social media is an amazing marketing tool also.
Yeah.
Um, so doing that as well kind of would help create the buzz and give opportunity to see what else was going on around in the
Yeah.
community that I could kind of partner with or be a part of
Yeah.
to have the signings and everything. So, which is kind of what I have to do in general to keep the life of the book alive
Mhm.
and then also just to continue to be in spaces with like-minded people.
Yeah.
Um, because like I never knew that I was going to be an author, but and so therefore that means I don't know what else, is next.
Yeah.
Um, so but when you're around like-minded people and
Yeah.
um, people that kind of see a similar vision, then it helps to open those doors to some other things. So yeah.
That's true. That's true. And even like touching on that a little bit, it's almost like it's a priority, like, when you know that it's something that you want to do in terms of being around like-minded people, it becomes a priority and something that you prioritize, so it almost in a sense can relate to organizing in general in terms of organizing your life because as you focus on the things not only that you need to do, but the way that you want to live your life, like being able to have a set of priorities is going to help you be successful in who you become and in what you can and will eventually do in the future as well, right? So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Sure. Mhm.
okay.
And having the
And then
grace for yourself,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
learning process or in development process.
yeah,
Um, and I know we're talking about the book. And instead of saying the book, we're talking about differently Daphne.
different.
Um,
Yes.
give it a name. Um,
Yes.
since we're talking about differently Daphne, that's also with organization as well.
Mhm,
Giving yourself grace, to
mhm,
understand that, okay, yeah, I know I need to do this and it should be this way and it should be that way. But it's
mhm,
like, well, it's gonna take time. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, you have to learn to kinda change some habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to, outsource and get a resource, nicely placed organizing. And, so it's like it's also, in the giving grace to yourself in the development, in the learning process also.
Agreed, agreed. That's a good point. And to tie it back in general to just your life and like what you do outside of being an author as well, like how do you feel like that looks for you in terms of organizing um in those areas of your life? So in how does organizing in your life in general and organizing like say for example at work look like as it relates to being um organized when it comes to your book, but also showing yourself grace in that area in those areas as well? I know that was
Well,
kind of a loaded question.
yeah, yeah, but I was processing as you were speaking.
Yeah.
So a quote that I was told before is how you do one thing is how you do everything. I was
Yeah.
part of an organization and they would say that a lot.
Yeah.
And that proves to be true. In all those areas, I do have work to do to be as organized as I desire to be.
Yeah.
Um, but in all of those areas, I give myself grace. In
Yeah.
all of those areas, I prioritize as to what to focus on in the moment. Um, you know, I'm organized enough to make sure that when I have to hand things over when it comes to work, when I have to hand things over to
Mhm.
someone, that it is in a place where they can operate from a state of clarity
Yeah. Yeah.
when they receive it. So I organize myself in that manner. Once again, focusing on the task at hand, I can
Mhm.
get that into a space that is digestible. Um, if it's something that has to go to somebody else.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's for me, depending on um, depending on the priority of the task, depending
Mhm.
on um, you know, what is it's gonna be utilized for,
Yeah.
um, will determine, you know, how much emphasis I put on the things unseen.
Yeah.
Um, so, so I kinda do that in all areas of my life. I prioritize, what needs to be done. If it's going to somebody else, I make sure that it is something that is clear, that is my best product,
Mhm.
and sometimes that can be a little tricky because I can be, a what is it? Perfectionist.
Ah.
Um, so, like, I really wanna get you the best thing. I
Mhm.
really want it to be nice,
Yeah.
I take pride in it,
Mhm.
and that means that something else may suffer in a sense on the back
Mhm.
end, right? I'm putting all this on the thing that I'm giving. So as long as I have what I need to get you the best, then that's what I'm focused on. Now, after that is handed over, then okay, now I
Mhm.
can take time to focus on the next thing of priority. Okay, now I got to get my situation together. You
Yeah.
know. And so yeah, that's like I said, that's how I approach everything. I moved back to Charlotte to be closer to family, my parents getting older.
Mm.
Um, so that became a priority. It was like, okay, I love being in Virginia.
Yeah.
My parents are the priority. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go back. And then I figure everything else from there, you know. And it's almost like, okay, then I can figure out I can focus on the next best thing. A friend of mine introduced me to a podcast called The Next Best Thing. I think that's what it's called.
Uh-huh.
Um, or the next right thing, the next right thing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, and once again, that's kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, what am I going to prioritize first? What's the next right thing for me to do? Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, so That's kind of how it all kind of blends and crosses over together. You know, how you do one thing is how you do everything. But I'm always striving to be, you know, a better version of me, a better, you know, how can I, you know, be more organized
Mm.
in my pursuit or my day to day. Um,
Yeah.
I'm always, you know, not always where I'm running myself into the ground, but you know, I have an
Yeah.
awareness of, you know, I can grow, I can do better, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of how it I think how it all kind of comes together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I how you do one thing is how you do everything. Yeah. And speaking of that, it's just like so because you know that that's how it all carries on over into other areas of your life that way as well. At what point do you feel like you started realizing that that you feel like a light bulb in a sense click to where you realize that being organized was something that was important to you, that was needed in your life, and prioritizing things was going to help you not be anxious, not be overwhelmed, and help you be able to, in a sense, get jobs and tasks completed in ways that are going to help you be the best version of you.
When did that click for me?
Or do you feel like you remember that? Like if there was a specific point when it happened?
Um, it's funny. I think what pops into mind,
Mhm.
if I maybe if I, you know, sit and think a little longer, there are other things. You know, there's always something that kind of changes the trajectory of like how you think or how you move. You know,
Yeah.
but the thing that pops into my mind is, you know, I work in a very fast thinking kind of environment.
Mhm.
So I am in the technology field. I work with program developers. And early in my career, I worked with a leader that would be quick to spit out things like,
Mhm.
"Oh, we gotta have this done and by tomorrow." And
Mhm.
I, especially like I said, as somebody that's kind of a perfectionist,
Yeah.
would easily be like, "Ah," like in my inside. I'm not one that's outwardly like, oh my God," you know,
Yeah.
but inwardly I'm frazzled, you know. So
Yeah.
um I remember getting to a point working with that specific leader where I had to be like, okay, I can only work to the capacity that I can if you want a great product.
Yeah.
Um, and if that means, you know, that you're gonna have to reach out to someone else, or maybe that I'm not the best fit,
Yeah.
then okay, that's how it's just gonna have to be. And that was a real turning point for me because before, you know, I I try to do everything. I
Yeah.
saying no is like, what? Say no. You know,
Yeah.
like prove myself, you know, I can do 500 things at one time and get it all to you, but yet
Yeah.
I'm sacrificing and like as far as sleep or I'm overly stressed or you
Yeah.
know, all of the above. And I just had to get to a place where I had to be real with myself and also be eventually be real with him because when I was processing through that,
Mhm.
sometimes it's kind of hard to say, you know, when you're kind of figuring things out.
Yeah.
But I know that I know that he was kind of starting to receive it. One, we were different. We were kind of two different beings where he was a more of an outwardly person that would
Mhm.
the stress, you can see it outwardly. I was kind of in, so sometimes the inward stress doesn't show um doesn't show that you have a what's the word I'm looking for? But like you have a fire to get it done. It's like, no,
Gotcha.
it's not you don't have a fire to get it done. It's just my anxiety or my,
Yeah.
craziness is in here. So, um, but eventually, like I said, once I got through that and during that process, that's when I realized, okay, I can't do everything, you
Mhm.
know. And in order for me to continue to be known for putting out good products, you know,
Mhm.
is that I have to prioritize, and then I also have to speak up, and
Yeah.
say when too much is too much. I'm overwhelmed, So I think it was kind of in that time where things kind of started to shift, and then I did start to recognize, like I said, with another organization that kept saying, um, how you do one thing is how you do everything, and started to
Mhm.
realize, well, now that I was kind of pushed to really be like, no, all I can do is focus on this, then I can get to
Yeah.
that. I started noticing I did that with everything, like,
Yeah.
no, I can't, you know,
Yeah,
you
it's like you start to know your boundaries.
Yeah, yeah. It's still a challenge, right? We all still have to, there's always
Mhm.
room to work on things because there's still time sometimes where I feel like I'm trying to do everything. But I do go back to that foundation of like, okay, Adrian, what's the priority?
Yeah.
What's the closest thing to the boat? You
Yeah.
know, that's what comes to mind as far as when that shift started happening and when I
Yeah.
started noticing that, I was operating kind of that way and applying it throughout.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that shift is in like in that type of, in a sense, environment where you find yourself like working with people who are along the lines of like more fast paced in a sense, and they're like, we got to get this done like tomorrow, like not even next week, tomorrow.
Yeah.
And like developing that perfectionist, or using that, in a sense, perfectionism complex, in a sense, to just lean on that without the boundaries. Yeah. I I'm glad that you were able to take that time to just know what that looks like for you and be able to go on that journey of figuring out what your priorities were, how to start focusing on your priorities so that um, you could actually know for yourself, not just for the job or not just for anyone else that you are working with, but solely for you, what that looks like to be able to get things done in ways that would uh, foster a better you, in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly, for
Yeah.
sure.
And so in terms of organizing in general, how would you say like so how would you say that that shows up in a practical sense? So it doesn't even have to be like physical, where you're like writing it down in the planner, but if that is like how you feel like you tend to keep track of your priorities, like is that something that you feel like you use? Was a digital or a daily planner, or what did what did that look like practically for you?
So I'm a list person.
Gotcha.
I love to write out. Uh, my first preference is writing it out. I
Mhm.
know we use a lot of the phone a lot for everything, or some device. I'm very
Mhm.
much I gotta put pen to paper, and that's what a lot of things for me.
Yeah,
First, because I gotta scratch out. I gotta, do my little doodles or whatever I need to do.
yeah,
Actually allows me to see the progress, and feel the progress.
yeah,
So I'm very much a list person, and I'll write out, what I need to focus on for the day,
yeah,
or perhaps what I need to focus on for the week, because sometimes when I do it by the day, if I didn't cross anything out, then it feels
mhm,
like, oh, I wasn't accomplished, or I didn't accomplish much that day.
yeah,
So sometimes it's more effective for me to just write out, okay, what's the priorities for the week, you know?
yeah,
And so I do that. But if I don't have pen and paper, I do use like notes. I use my phone
yeah,
and take notes that way. Um, So that's my main source of tracking it, in the physical, or being more organized in the physical,
Mhm.
um, or in a practical stance. Um, and then two, I also, um, I try to section things off.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, I'm trying to do better with like filing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can section things out like, okay, these notebooks right here are
Mhm.
for this, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
this box, and I gotta move away from boxes too. But this box is for this, you know. Um, so that's also a way in which I do it. I try to keep things together, grouped together,
Mm. Yeah.
the best that I can. It's funny as I'm saying that, it makes me think like when I travel, like
Yeah.
I'm one, and this is probably very much on a tangent, but it just kind of popped in my
No.
head as
Mhm.
far as like organization is concerned. When I
Mhm.
travel, I'm not the type of person where I unload everything out of my suitcase and, people put them in drawers, all those things. I keep
Yeah.
everything together in the corner,
Yeah.
like one spot where everything is, because then that helps me to not have to have my mind all over the place searching for things,
Mhm.
you know. Um, and it helps me to have a sense of peace and awareness of where my things are.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't have to have that anxiety of like when it's time to go, having to search for things or having to look for things, you know.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, this drawer they hung up in the closet. Mm-mm. I keep everything, and that's whether I'm traveling somewhere unknown in the sense of
Mhm.
like, out of town, out of the country or whatever, or if I'm traveling to somebody's house. I
Right.
know all my stuff is gonna stay right there, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I keep my little sections of things, but
Mhm.
first and foremost, I write them down. I make a list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, and with the clothes when you're traveling, I'm the exact same way. I it doesn't matter where I'm going. My bag is my bag, and that's where everything is gonna stay. Anything related to like the bathroom, I'll take it out and put
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
in
I'm
there. Yeah, yeah, but same way. Suitcase, I know where everything is, and it makes it easier to just pick it back up and go.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like an organizing tip that you really love and enjoy using, what would you say that is like for you to be able to like what would you say one of those organizing tips are that you would like to share with the audience?
I think do what's comfortable for you. Create your own standard. A lot of times we look to the right, we look to the left. Like if I was to be in a space with you, I'm pretty sure I'd be looking like, oh man,
Yeah.
I wish I could be as organized as that, right? And then we put ourselves in this like whole comparison, you know,
Mhm.
whatever we want to call that. And now we have this added stress, we have this added burden, this added a sense of overwhelm, sense of being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And um, when it's just like, do what works for you. Do what
Yeah.
works for you, and like I said, kind of create your own standard. Not to say that, you know, don't challenge yourself to do better,
Yeah.
right? But do what gives you peace. If that means that you write out a list, but even though they execute it right when it comes,
Mhm.
okay, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
But if you need to write a list, you write a list, So I think
Yeah.
kind of do what's comfortable for you, you know, create your own standard and stick to that, and but
Mhm.
challenge yourself where you can, and do it so that you can be in a space of peace, you know.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. And as you were talking, it sounded so much like things that like Tabitha Brown would say.
Oh, I just got compared to Tabitha. love Tabitha.
No, yeah, like with the portion when you said, like, do what you want to do, like do what you need to do for you. Like that's I can definitely see her saying something like that because she's always like you do you in a sense and don't don't take what they're doing and like try to copy it, try to do it, like do what you're doing and stay in your lane in a sense. So,
Yeah, yeah, 'cause
yeah.
it's just easy to do that nowadays. It's so easy
Yeah,
to do that, especially
that's
with
true.
social media, just societal norms,
Yeah.
all that.
Mm.
It yeah, but it can do more harm than help,
Yeah.
when you're so focused on the next person and trying to be like the next person.
Yeah.
It's more or less in all the chaos in the world.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I agree.
create your
Yeah.
own peace, and
Create your own
move forward
piece.
with
You
that.
might need to write that on like a t-shirt or an art piece and
Yeah, go ahead, girl. Go
no, but Adrian, thank you so much for joining in for today's episode. I'm glad that we got
thank
the chance
you.
to. You're welcome. I'm glad that we got the chance to talk and just be able to hear more about your organizing journey and how you've been able to process it and, in a sense, come to a better space of how to keep going in terms of prioritizing what you know needs to be done and when it needs to be done and looking at the closest hazard to the boat,
Yeah,
creating your own piece. And so when it comes to like people following you and staying connected to you and your journey, what does that look like? Where can people follow you, and how can people also purchase your book and follow things that you're doing with your book as well?
so I am on Instagram, and Instagram as BPI author, and that's B as in Bob, P as in Paul, I underscore, excuse me, BPI author
Yeah,
underscore Adrianne Free. And that's Adrianne, so ANNE, and free as you would expect to spell it. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. And I believe you can find me that way on Facebook. I think I have it set up the same way on Facebook as well. But my main source of sharing, information, especially related to my book, is via Instagram. And from there, you can navigate and find the link to go to the website that I have
yeah,
for my book. And as far as where you can purchase differently, Daphne, Amazon is, of course, a great source for so many things.
yeah.
And differently Daphne on Amazon. You can buy autograph copies through my website. And then it's also on Barnes and Noble online, Target online, and Walmart online. So there's a number of places to find her.
Yeah.
Yeah, BPI author underscore Adrian Free on Instagram.
Love it. Well, you all have heard it here. Make sure you follow her and make sure you grab Differently Daphne and not just purchase it for yourself, but also purchase it for family member, friend, um, just anyone that you'd like to share it with as well.
Yeah.
Again, Adrian, thank you so much. And I'll be talking with you soon. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Sierra.
You're welcome. All right. Take care. Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining in for another episode of Organizing Untold. Again, Adrienne Free was our guest for today's episode. And so she shared so much about paying attention to the hazard that's closest to the boat, taking care of your priorities, being able to create your own peace so that you're not anxious and overwhelmed and trying to get things done so that you're not focusing on more than one thing that you can tackle at the time. and just being able to live in a way that is going to be peaceful for you. So be sure to stay connected with her and her organizing journey, and also, as stated earlier, purchase her book, Differently Daphne, for you, for your child, for your family member or friend, and make sure that you support her as an author as well. My name again is Sierra, and I'm your host of Organizing Untold, where we help busy business owners and those who work between the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. become confident with organizing. And we do this by bringing on guests who are within the same category to be able to speak of their organizing journey and be able to share what that looks like for them and how they got to how organizing has helped them get to where they are now. So, nicely placed organizing is the overarching business of that Organizing Untold is a segment under. And in nicely placed organizing, we organize for borderline hoarders, first time home buyers, and full time artists with art studios. So, if you or anyone that you know are within these categories, within these audiences, reach out to us at nicelyplacedorganizing.com. We'd love to have a consultation with you and also help you organize your space virtually or in person. And speaking of, right now we have a special going on until December 31st, where if you book a virtual organizing session or a folding only service where we fold your clothes for you after you've washed and dried them, if you hate folding and you need someone to come in and fold your clothes and put them away for you, we're here for you. So reach out to us and get signed up for that for that folding only service. So again, when you book a virtual organizing service or a folding only service, you get half off on an in-person room, office, closet, or art studio session. So that is until December 31st. So be sure to visit nicelyplacedorganizing.com and book one of those virtual organizing sessions or the folding only service so that you can take advantage of the special that's going on. So, thank you again for joining in, and we appreciate you all so much. Be sure to also like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, on Facebook, and reach out to us and let us know how we're doing. Leave a review for us. Let us know what you're enjoying about Organizing Untold and the podcast episodes that we've been releasing, what you want to see, how we can be better for our audience as well. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.